And one of the people that, I'm not sure how he became a patient, David Brain. Was he already a patient there?
No, got into an auto accident, showed him out.
Got in a car accident, walked in the door, something like that. Started getting adjusted by Dr. Justin, came in for massage work as well. Just a humble, wonderful man. Just loves God and loves doing what he does. And he is the catering and restaurant manager here at this place. He's a leader in the business community. He runs Woolies restaurant over here, which is a very successful restaurant. On Mother's Day, what do they have? 1,200 people?
Yeah, like 1,500 people come through.
Imagine this, okay? You guys, you were just out in the atrium. 1,500 people have Mother's Day brunch here.
At $35 a brunch. That's not
$35 a pop.
They do it well.
And that gentleman, David Breen, is, you'll probably see him. Hopefully I'll be able to get him to pop in and say hi. But he is just, he's a gem of a guy. The guy that just was here a minute ago, his name is Ben. He runs the bar over there. He's a wine and beer expert. He's just a genius. Just a great guy. They do such a good job here. When you get a chance, in fact, I want to give it, this is your assignment, okay? Because if I don't say it that way, then sometimes it doesn't happen, right? This is your assignment. Before you leave this weekend, you need to make an impact, okay? And I don't say that lightly, I mean impact. You need to make an impact on some employee here. It doesn't need to be David or Ben. It can be, you know, a housekeeper or anybody, somebody at the front desk. Make an impact on them. Do you realize how little people give to other people and compliment people? I mean, unfortunately, it's almost weird when people give you a compliment. It's like, oh man, where did you get that shirt? That is awesome. I mean, how many times do you hear that? Not very often. So, I don't care if it's the smallest compliment like that or a hairstyle. I mean, we try to practice this in our office, right? Where, you know, if the only thing we say to a person that's walking in the door is, where did you get a hat like that? That is awesome. I wish I had 3 of those. That makes their day, or their week, or their month, or their year, okay? So please make an impact on one person. Just please promise me, one person. Everybody okay? Yeah. Say yes. Yes. Okay. Make an impact on one person, because I want people, employees of this place, I want them talking about that chiropractic group that was here. Man, they were neat. They really were, there was something different about them. And there's something different about this group, not just chiropractic group, but this group. Okay, that being said, turn it over to this couple here. I've had the wonderful opportunity to work with both Kyle and Bailey. Ironically, as it worked out, and for those of you that don't know, Kyle is Justin's younger brother. They do claim each other, but they're related, which is a good thing. And Kyle came and did his internship, his last trimester with me at Northern Life, and then joined the Big Fish program. At the same time, because Kyle and Bailey were both practicing, or were both in school together down at Palmer, Bailey, they moved up to Minneapolis, and Bailey was an associate with Dr. Justin. So while Kyle was working at Northern Life, Bailey was working at Woodbury Spine, and now they're working at All About Chiropractic in Madison, Wisconsin. So give it up for Kyle and Bailey.
So far, tonight's been a little bit more serious, so what we like to do is kind of lighten it up a little bit and have a little bit more fun. What do you guys think about that? What? No fun? Oh. The video we're about to show is kind of a couple of reasons, even though it doesn't really have a lot to do with leadership in general. One, like I said, is to lighten up the mood, give you guys a little bit of a laugh. It talks a little bit about innate, okay, so that's important. But a lot of it too is that this is the kind of mindset that a lot of the people that we go out into the community have about a lot of the things that we're doing, okay? So it kind of gives you a good idea of what you guys are up against, okay? So it's really important that we are educating our patients on wellness, on chiropractic, on these new ideas, because what he says is definitely what people come into you and think and do, okay? So I want to apologize to Pastor Larry ahead of time. There is some profanity.
Larry likes that. Larry likes it.
Okay, good. Yes.
Never heard of it.
He talks about babies now, and that's another reason why this video to me is just on my heart a little bit, just because I just went through a lot of this experience. So we'll play it for you, and I hope you enjoy it. It's just a few minutes long. Okay.
Psych.
I recently became a father. Became a father for the 4th time. Never so much applause on that part. Really no applause, right? Because after the 3rd kid, people stop congratulating you. Then they just treat you like you're Amish. 4? Well, that's one way to live your life. Can you build us one of those wood fireplaces? 4 kids. 4 kids. If you want to know what it's like to have a 4th, just imagine you're drowning, and then someone hands you a baby. The good news is we live in a 2-bedroom apartment. So I caught it through. I haven't slept in 7 years. I didn't always look like this. I'm actually Puerto Rican. The wear and tear of parenting. I used to have thick black hair. I was muy guapo. No más. No more guapo. My wife had the baby at home. We had all our babies at home, just to make you feel uncomfortable. People don't want to hear about home birth. They're like, oh, you had your baby at home. Yeah, we were going to do that, but we wanted our baby to live. People always assume there was some laziness involved. You didn't want to go to the hospital? It was far. I didn't feel like putting on pants. We had our baby at home, not in a field. At home? Well, why would you have it in that germ-infested building where sick people congregate? Did your wife want to give birth in a gown someone died in yesterday? Home birth is crazy, huh? It was all my wife's idea. I don't even like cooking at home, you know? It's wild, you know? There was so much screaming at one point, I actually woke up. Oh, someone want to score a touchdown? Oh, you're having another baby? Keep it down, I'm trying to get a tight 12 hours in. And I was my wife's birth coach, which is a generous title for standing there terrified. There was also a midwife there, because we believe in witchcraft. Midwife? Now, how many wives does this guy have? Sounds like Al-Qaeda. My wife did it. She had 4 babies in her apartment. She's an amazing woman. Really, all women are amazing, and I mean that in a very pandering way. But women are, really. You know, a woman can grow a baby inside their body. And then somehow a woman can deliver the baby through their body. And then by some miracle, a woman can feed a baby with their body. And when you think of the male contribution to life, it's kind of embarrassing. The guy goes like, you know what, I help too! For like 5 seconds. Doing the one thing I think about 24 hours a day. Well, enjoy your morning sickness. I'm gonna eat me some chili. Smell those onions. You want some? I guess not, huh? Baby at home. Babies are a lot of work. I try and pitch in. I do diapers. I mean, I don't change them, but I go, you gotta do this diaper. We have 3 other kids too, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. I should probably learn their names. Try and be a good dad. I sat the older 3 down and I explained to them that the new baby does not mean I love them any less, but I will have to let one of them go. So if anyone knows of a toddler rescue, maybe we could get Sarah McLachlan to do the commercial. I love that commercial. Even the dogs in that commercial are like, it's a little heavy-handed. We are just dogs, man. There's still kids starving in Africa, right? I don't like that joke at all. Why would he put that joke in this special? 4 kids. Bedtime is a crisis. That's why I'm here right now. It's too hard. They act like they've never been to sleep before. Bed? What's that? No, I don't want to do that. Then it becomes some hostage negotiation. But in reverse. Look, if you stay in there, I will give you whatever you want. I will meet your demands. What do you want, a helicopter to Cuba?
A puppy.
Just stay in there. There's always one awake. Like they're taking shifts. Alright, I'll annoy them from midnight to 2. Who wants 3 to 6? Now let's lie down and practice kicking them in our sleep. Because my wife has instituted this open door policy where if one of our kids has a nightmare, they're welcome to come in our room and pee in our bed. Luckily, that only happens every night. You ever slept next to someone that's wet to bed? Delicious. You're asleep, right? So when you wake up, your first thought is, oh my God, I went to bed! And your next thought is, well, it's not that wet. I just scoot over a little bit. If I pretend to be asleep, maybe she'll deal with it. Oh, I didn't even notice. Hey, while you're up, can you make me a sandwich? Thanks, honey.
Does that make your night a little bit? It's pretty funny. I saw this and I was on the floor laughing immediately. I thought of Justin and Christy because if a lot of you don't know, we have a nephew, Eli. He's pretty fantastic. They learned, I think, how driven the little man is, though, in the last couple weeks. The whole open door policy, if you stay in your room, we'll do something for you. Well, he's like, how about if I stay in my room for 2 nights, I can get a puppy. Christy, she's very smart. I'm just kidding. Testing the little bugger because he's usually, he's in there every night. And he decided that, she's like, well, how about for 2 weeks? If you can do it for 2 weeks, you can have a puppy. Do you guys think he did it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And guess who's back in the bed after he got the puppy?
Yeah.
Sucker.
But that just goes to show you, if you have goals, you're going to reach them, right? Yeah, all it takes is a puppy. Anyway. Oh, all right. So we're going to talk a little bit about leadership, and I'm actually going to include Chelsea a little bit on this one too. Just to have an idea, are any of you guys females going to chiropractic school in here? Got one? Are you a female going to chiropractic? Awesome. I currently am the Lone Ranger, so I'm enforcing some more units here. So I highly encourage you guys to definitely look into Big Fish. And it's one thing that's really awesome to have that support group, and we talk a lot about it throughout Big Fish, but it is really important to have female leaders and role models out there as well. Another thing, last weekend when we went to California, we had the great pleasure of meeting Misty May Trainer. Do you guys all know who she is? 3-time gold.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I didn't in March, and it was like.
Boo hiss. But she's one of mine and Christy's role models. She's a 3-time gold Olympian in sand volleyball. And this was one thing that we talked a lot about. If you guys would, look and see who's all role models is a female in the athletic profession, a lot of you probably can't think of that many. Obviously, Missy May and Carrie are two that I think of immediately on the top of my head, but can you guys think of any others?
Lindsey Vaughn.
Good one.
Mary Lou Retton.
Yeah.
Peekaboo.
Yeah. Now, if I would say, think of a male athlete who's, high in the profession, I bet you guys would be here for days, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Rodgers. Anyway, and I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Yeah. But the main thing is that it's the same way in our profession. We go to a lot of these conferences, we go to a lot of these shows, and the big thing missing is there's not a heavy female influence. So I definitely want to challenge you guys to, highly look into becoming a leader, study it, go out, expand your knowledge the best you can, get in a support group like Big Fish because it's amazing, and the places it can take you, the confidence it can give you. For me personally, I know when I go to a conference, if I see that a female is speaking, I get really excited because it does not happen very frequently. So I encourage you to follow your dreams and to really pursue that because we need it. Are you going to say anything today?
Well, I guess to add on that, if you look at, and the doctors should all know this answer, but who makes the decisions in the family?
The woman.
So who should have the most influence? Yeah. So women, unfortunately, they don't speak loud enough. Like if we're out in public and there's women around, she can execute way better than I do because she's a woman. And to be honest, use it as your advantage, right? Mothers will listen to other mothers, okay? They might not listen to a dad, okay, or a guy standing up and talking. But women have a softer side that men, unfortunately, have a hard time finding. And so, that's one of the joys and pleasures that I've had, being able to work with my wife is to have that because it helps balance me out because I don't weigh as much on my heart, whereas I should. And so, finding that, and like I said, for women, it's huge to get up in front of people and speak, especially when you start talking on kids and health, vaccinations. Other mothers will listen to you, okay, and know that. It's very, very powerful. No, it's just nice.
Okay, awesome. Along with having female influences in the office, a lot of you ladies in here are chiropractic angels, right? Chiropractic angles. They're all like cute though.
I do that on purpose.
I know. She's making sure we weren't sleeping. Sorry, honey. I'm sorry.
Making fun of me, she doesn't like it.
But the truth is, majority of our offices aren't just led by us doctors, but they are led by staff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have Chelsea. She's going to come up here. She's going to lead us in an activity. Really quick, I do think it's important that you guys are there for each other. Take leadership advice from each other. Learn how to lead your group. Learn how people in your office are ticking because like everybody, you guys have a lot to weigh on the success of our clinics, and that's really important with that leadership role. So come on up, Chelsea. You guys can give her a hand. It's okay.
pretty simple. I actually go to a lot of training seminars. It's one thing that I love to do, and I would encourage everybody to do it, but especially the staff. There's no way that you're going to be able to better grow yourself than to learn from others who are better at their position. And that's not to say that you're not good at what you do, but there's always going to be somebody better that you can learn from. So that's one thing that I do a lot. I actually went to a seminar about 2 months ago. It's an in-business seminar. So it actually kind of didn't have anything to do with chiropractic, but I went for it for the marketing side of it. And I went through a workshop that was called a yes and. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a story. But what we're going to do is we're not going to contradict each other. We're going to start our sentences with yes and constantly build on top of each other. We're going to see how outrageous the story is going to get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a sentence. I'm going to pass it off to Dr. John. Dr. John is going to start his sentence with yes and. His sentence cannot contradict mine. It has to add to it. And at no point can you say no anywhere in your sentence. We're going to keep on going throughout the entire room and see how amazing it gets. The last time I did this, it was a ridiculous story, but it's really cool to see how it gets. Plus, you're going to learn the value of not being able to predict what the person in front of you is going to say, but you have to agree with it. Sound good? All right, everybody's just going to talk up. I think we can have loud enough voices where we can scream at each other, right? Sound good?
We can pass it around. Instead of watching for the camera.
Oh, never mind. Never mind. We're going to pass it. Okay, so I'm going to start the story, and we're going to start with, there was a tree swaying in the breeze.
Yes, and Kyle Nye is my favorite professional athlete.
Should I just start this from the beginning?
Yes, and. Nope, you don't have to repeat the person in front of you. You just add one sentence to it.
Yes.
Yes, and. What agrees with John's sentence?
Yes, and then Dr. John Borsheim didn't go.
Oh, I didn't say did it. Okay. You can say did it.
Okay.
But where did it go?
Didn't go
To
to the chiropractor.
Yes, and he went to the regular doctor who told him to go back up the tree. Yes, and the tree scared him, so they gave him anti-anxiety drugs.
Yes, and he was smarter than that, so he said no to the drugs and said, I'm going to my chiropractor today.
Yes, and the chiropractor was closed. Yes, and Dr. John Borsheim decided to go to Woodbury Spine. Yes, and he wore a tutu.
I love it.
Yes, and he walked up to the door.
Yes, and Dr. Nye met him and was a little worried about the tutu.
Yes, and he said, never mind the tutu, just lay down on the table. I'll just do it.
Yes, and the patient came back multiple times. Yes, and Dr. Nye told Brody to come and adjust him. Brody is his son. Wait, wrong doctor? Yeah. Oh, well, never mind. And I.
Yes, and Dr. John was disappointed with Dr. Nye's approach, so he decided to go to Dr. Crane.
Smart man.
Yes, and the tutu was pink.
Yes, and Dr. Justin really liked the pink and decided to get himself a shirt. Pink shirt.
Yes, and he decided to wear that pink shirt every day. Yes, and it's themed Thursday, so it's ballet.
Yes, and Dr. Jeff decided to have the same theme in his office. Yes, and Dr. Chase decided to wear the tutu every single day of the week.
Yes, and he was so excited about wearing the tutu that he decided to start singing the song.
Yes, and the theme became a worldwide thing that was happening everywhere. Chiropractic clinics everywhere started wearing pink tutus and singing that same song, which went something like this.
Yes, and it went a little like Here Comes Susie Snowflake.
Yes, and all the chiropractic clinics that wore their tutus also enjoyed dancing in front of the mirror for themselves.
Yes, and luckily Target had them buy one, get one.
I love it.
And not to get off topic, but yes, and everybody went and saw their chiropractor, and chiropractic's awesome. Woo!
Yes, and we all decided we were all going to take selfies.
Yeah. Where is your selfie, by the way?
Yes, and everyone in the story lived happily ever after.
That's pretty
Boy,
fun.
that tree was awesome.
Yeah. So, well, I should probably talk about this. So as you can see, it got a little bit crazy at first, but then now apparently everybody's getting a pink tutu for Christmas. So that's great. And hopefully they are buy one, get one, because it'll be a lot cheaper. But you can see how it all just kind of ravels differently, depending on who's going to get it next. We had no idea it was going to start with a tree and end with a tutu, right? Those have nothing to do with each other generally. So that kind of gives you the art of the unexpected, but what it's also going to make you do is really start realizing that you can only predict so much of the future. You knew that I said something about a tree, but by the time we got over here, the tree was non-existent. So you can only pretend to know so much. You really have to be prepared for the future. And I think that's what being a leader is. You have to be ready for the art of the unexpected. It's walking down and having a waiter give you, instead of a glass of champagne, they pull out their hand and they go, oh, here's a chipmunk. Here you go. Was that what you were expecting at a fancy restaurant? No. You were expecting a glass of wine, maybe a napkin, something, not a chipmunk. But you have to be ready for that. So this is a fun little exercise. Obviously, this is bigger groups. It's a little bit harder to do. But I recommend doing it in your clinics on a relatively regular basis. See where everybody's mind is at. Because the sooner that you can give a response as well, also helps your, your staff members as well as your doctors know kind of where your mind is at. Okay? If your mind is wandering, it's going to be harder for you to give a response. Okay? So we pass it back.
With that said, now we all own tutus.
I want selfies.
Selfies in our tutus. It's just a big joke this weekend. That's the new word of the year. You guys know that? Selfie. Yeah. Ooh. One thing that is also a little bit different in our clinic as opposed to some of the other clinics is because Kyle and I are both doctors together. A lot of it is trying to figure out what type of leader we are and how we can work together to best suit both of our leadership styles. A lot of times there are two main different types of styles of leadership that we commonly see, not just in practices, but in group activities a lot of times too. And I talk to my girls about this a lot, but the main two types of leaders there are the ones that dictate or tell you how to do things or what to do. And then there's the leaders that don't say anything, but show you how to do it, okay? And both Kyle and I are very different. Because of his driver type personality, he definitely knows what he wants and will tell you what he thinks. Whereas I'm not necessarily as vocal about leading as I am about trying to lead by example or show them how to do something by me doing it. And we talk a lot about this, especially when a lot of miscommunication starts happening in the office, or if not unfortunately, but Liz and Chelsea are two staff members, and sometimes if one of them's not doing their job or they butt heads a little bit, we have to be like, okay, well, instead of telling her what she's doing wrong or continuously telling her that she's not doing it, why don't you try doing it for her or showing her that you know how to do it too, or leading by example, as opposed to just saying you're supposed to be doing this. And a lot of times, I know at least as a female, for me, for example, like if somebody's continuously doing my job, I'm not the type of person to be like, oh great, keep it up, go ahead. Instead of take offense and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing that. Or in essence, it'll make me feel bad about not doing my job. So there's different ways that you can lead in your practice, especially either by talking or by showing.
Just to build a little bit off of just what Bailey said there, when showing by doing that action, it's not doing it and then telling them you're doing it. It's totally different, right? To me, a leader is somebody that's they lead by example. And Justin talked a lot about leading within your office, and it's got to start within your office. But there's one step before that I think gets missed all too often, and you have to lead yourself. How can I expect to lead other people if I'm not taking care of myself? That's a really big piece. And to be honest, we get out, we talk in front of people, but we have to practice what we preach. If you tell somebody that they need to exercise, you need to exercise. If we need to eat healthy, they need to eat healthy, you need to eat healthy. Processed foods is terrible for us. You guys all know that. Okay, well, who had processed foods this week? Who had sugar this week? Everybody did, because I saw the M&Ms go down, right? So you can't tell me that.
Yes, that was me.
And things are good in moderation, but if we're standing up in front of people and we're telling them a message, but we're not doing it at home, what kind of a message is that? You're totally contradicting yourself without even knowing it, right? Don't smoke, don't choose, don't do all those bad things, but I do it all the time. I eat ice cream at night. I eat processed foods. I eat chips. I go to McDonald's. But you're telling people how to be healthy? How does that work? So, in essence, that could be a very good gut check. And for the doctors that aren't out there doing it yet, you have to live your life congruently. And that's one thing I've really learned since Declan's been born. And I can use her as an excuse. She's a pretty good one. She's 8 weeks old. I went from being busy in the office to having, no time, not even in the office, but at home. Unfortunately, I became a lot like Jeff. I take a stack of folders home every night, and that same stack makes it back to the office, and then back home the next night, and then back, and it's back and forth. And you have to find your balance, but you have to live your life congruently, okay? Because people, if they're going to look to you as a leader, okay, they're going to look to you as a leader for what you're showing, not for what you're saying. Okay? And there's a really big difference in that. Because people are very, very smart. They're going to know whether or not we're living our lives congruent to what we're saying, what we're speaking, okay? And some of you guys don't know, Jess and I grew up in a chiropractic family. I'm the 9th, she's the 8th, because she's B before K, so, woo-hoo for her. It's her joke. But, we grew up in pain-based chiropractic, okay? And you guys all know what that is, but like my grandpa, every time we saw the family, everybody got together, Grandpa would spend Sunday before everybody went home addressing everybody. Well, why do you think he did that? It's important, right? Okay. He would address his family whenever they needed. His wife got adjusted every day. Okay, because she suffered from headaches, she broke her back. What did he tell his patients? Do you think they came in and got adjusted on a regular basis? And they didn't. It was pain-based. Okay? And so, you know, we really got to start and evaluate your life. You know, if you guys take anything home from this, go home, look at your life, and what things am I doing that contradict my beliefs of where I want to be? Okay, because if you're not living congruently, you're not going to reach that potential. You're not going to reach your God-given potential. Because you're always going to be fighting against yourself. And after all, yourself is your worst enemy. So that's all we have. That's in closing.
Baby crying in the background, this is real life. So you guys know this happens in your office, so anticipation.
You guys hang out here
Sure.
for a second. I thought something that would be, and I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, but Kyle and Bailey took over a practice in Madison, Wisconsin, and you know they've learned a ton in the first year, and I thought maybe it would be a good thing for some of our associates to hear, and also for students. I mean, we have students as young as just starting trimester 1. I mean, you guys haven't even started yet, and you're hearing things here that a lot of people will go all the way through chiropractic school and not even hear any of this. And to be honest with you, that's kind of sad, but unfortunately that's the truth. Unless you go out of your way to do something like what you've done here, which is to show up. I thought it would be good if we had an opportunity to ask you questions.
Sure.
Just if you have questions about practice or questions about life transition, or coming into a new practice or a practice that's already established, how did you engage with the patients that were there? How did you transition them? I mean, there's all kinds of questions that might be in your brain about, okay, put yourself in that situation. How would you do it? This is a tremendous resource right here. For those of you that are not in your own practice at this point, these are people that have done it and are living it right now and are willing and would love to share it and pay it forward for you. So if we can just have a few minutes, and there's no dumb question, there's no bad question, there's no anything, there's no agenda. I didn't even know I was going to do this until 2 minutes ago. So if you have some questions for these guys, for Kyle and or Bailey, go ahead and ask.
Okay, well actually I already know from last Big Fish, but some of you new students and new people might not know, but what were the biggest obstacles for you two with opening your practice in Madison?
One big thing that people are constantly asking on a daily basis is, oh my God, you work with your husband? How do you do that? Is it horrible? And
Yes.
the answer is always yes, no. One thing is I guess in essence is both Kyle and I, because we are chiropractors, both of us had this dream that we were going to open our own practice. And when you start combining your life with other people or have a relationship with someone else, and you have to start taking into consideration things that they like and things that they want, knowing how to get the best of both worlds so that you're both happy and content with what's going on. That's been a little bit of one of the obstacles that we've had to overcome. I think Kyle always knew that he wanted to do more family practice, whereas I initially thought that I wanted to see more athletes and deal with more athletics. However, now being in more of a family-based practice, I couldn't imagine it any other way. So there's certain ideals that you have as well that change when you go through the process of opening your own clinic and seeing how good things are. And But just the daily struggles of being partners and trying to figure out, you know, who's the best to answer which question. Like if our staff comes to us with a certain question, they're getting pretty good at knowing who to go to for certain things now. But if it's more relational, a lot of times they'll come to me. But if it's more financial, they'll go to Kyle. But figuring out who has the best knowledge to answer those questions and know how to co-manage and just work as one.
For me, I guess the biggest thing outside of, you know, working with your wife and don't get me wrong, it's been the best experience that I could have had. And I see that now more now that she's been gone for 8 weeks. I mean, I've been in the office by myself doing everything for 8 weeks with my staff. And, you know, I realized how much I did actually see her, but I don't anymore. You know, I don't get home until 8:30 at night. And my favorite time is I have Declan laying on my chest while I watch TV. Because that's all the time I get with her. But the hardest thing going in for me was, and Jerry's going to talk tomorrow, but as well as you can pick a practice out that's going to fit your ideals and what you want, ideally realize that the person, especially if you're purchasing, the person before you, their ideas were totally different. And so when you go in there, all the patients are used to his thought process. And so trying to transition that over to you, and I feel like now, I mean, we've been there a year and a half, it's slowly starting to feel more and more like something that we want and the atmosphere that we want. But it took a long time because a lot of them were very, very used to the way things were. And so it took a long time, and you know, and with that, it's procedures, it's how you want things done. You know, and you got to take the nuggets because obviously he was, you know, the doc before you was doing something right if he was getting out of practice for the right reasons. He was doing something right. So take those things that you enjoy or you like that are good, add them to what you want to do, and ultimately you got to make it your own. But understand that it takes time. It's a process. It doesn't happen in 2 months. I mean, we've been there a year and a half, and it's slowly transitioning there. And then as well, you know, it's dealing with staff. I mean, Chelsea knows we're totally different than the doctor that was there before you. So going in, understand that they're used to a totally different system. Okay, their expectations are totally different, and their expectations automatically, even though you're not the same person, they transition from that old doc to you. That's the same expectations. Even though you don't think the same as he does, you don't handle things the same, that's where they're coming from. And just know that there's going to be that disconnect, and you have to be able to deal with it and handle it. There's going to be bumps. I mean, Chelsea and I butt heads a lot. Okay, Liz never got to work underneath Dr. Blahnik, so she's only had us. But there's going to be a lot of bumps, and just know that, okay, because it's hard. So, Jason.
I guess my question was kind of answered, but you know, when you're taking over a clinic and you're, you know, basically trying to take over patients from a specific clinic, do you feel like you had to become Dr. Blahnik for a little bit?
The only part that I wanted to make sure that I kept the same, you guys probably noticed when I adjusted you, was how firm I was. He's probably one of the firmest adjusters I've ever been adjusted by, so I knew that that's what patients were used to. And I wanted to make sure that the care that they were getting was the same. So that way the transition from his hands to my hands were very much the same. So I changed my style. And since then, I've slowly been weeding those patients back to how I do things, but it's taken me time. If I would have went in right away and started adjusting how I did in Northern Life, a lot of them would have been, that's too different, see you later, you know, and they would have never given me a chance. So, but as far as like personality-wise and things like that, I mean, I got to hold true to who I am. You know, I'm not going to be him, and to be honest, that's why the majority of patients have stayed. I mean, 95% of the patients that were there are still there. You know, and it's because we were who we were, and we showed who we were, which is totally different than he was, and patients have said that over and over again, and that's why they're still there.
You're actually not giving yourself enough credit. We lost one patient in the transition.
Like you just had a baby. I just had a baby a few months ago too. How did you kind of transition that from your practice and everything?
That's one thing. I'm super, super fortunate to have Kyle working with me. I couldn't ask for a better partner, and it's just the best situation that we could have had for our practice and for our family. With the patient load that we were seeing with Kyle's experience at Northern Life, he definitely could handle and manage our patient load that we were currently seeing. So it wasn't that difficult for him to step in and for me to step out per se. And
That's what you think.
however, the trickier part now that we're actually trying to figure out is how the best way to start incorporating me back into the practice. And right now we're kind of considering, because we do run split shift days like most clinics, or at least in this room, run split shift days just to accommodate for more patients and during their before and after work times and things like that. We do have a couple half days, and so considering starting to slowly work back into those half days. We are a family practice, we show that. We, like Kyle said, we have to be true to who we are, so if I need to bring her to work with me, I'm going to bring her to work with me. At the current moment, I don't necessarily feel comfortable having somebody else watch our child. But the thing that's so cool about a family practice, and when you start loving on your patients so much that they become such a big part of your life and a part of your family, that I bring her there and everybody's like a part of that family. You know, they feel like your relatives and they all want to hold her and hang on to her and do things with her, and they're just accepting. They're like, this is normal, you know what I mean? And so a lot of that, just having her around and in the practice is normal for them, and they get used to it. So just trying to figure out more on how to make it work. We're obviously nursing right now, hence the crabby baby in the back. But that's probably another part, is just figuring out how to accommodate for patients and still have time to feed and all that stuff. So it's an ongoing process, and you learn as you go. It's not something, because as soon as you think you have something planned out, just like this activity did, as soon as the sentence started, you know, we thought this whole story was going to be about a tree and ended up being about tutus. That's exactly what happens. As soon as you think that you have something planned and figured out, it's something totally different happens. So, and that's part of it. You have to be adaptable. Did that answer your question a little bit?
How long are you taking up?
She's currently 9 weeks, and I mean, I've been in and out of the office a little bit the last 2 weeks, and so I think probably it'll be a little bit more permanent, like set hours after the holidays. So, but not that long.
As far, because we work together, so as far as the flow went, we had to change the schedule around. Because of the volume that we were seeing, I couldn't take new patients during adjusting hours, and that's what we were doing before. And I just couldn't. So, you know, like I had to get more of my time outside of when we adjust. So we have, you know, we opened up a ton more, you know, new patient slots. So that way we were seeing them before. And we had to learn as well, because we put them a half hour before. Well, as you guys know, patients don't always come in with their paperwork filled out. So then, you know, and some of them take a half hour to fill out their paperwork. I don't know how, but, you know, and so then it's time to start adjusting, and I'm supposed to go back and do a consultation, which, you know, depending on the patient, could be 5 minutes, could be 25 minutes, and I had patients waiting for me. So, you know, it was a trial by error figuring it out, but we just ended up putting them an hour and 15 minutes outside, so that way they never ran into it. But my goal was, for sure, you know, if it's an hour, by the time they're leaving, they're seeing me adjust patients, because that's really important. Because they see me and they can visualize themselves being on the table. So, you know, we had to make that adjustment, but you learn it and, you know, you'll figure it out too, that part of it. So.
You run into patients who believe in chiropractic and like consistent treatment plans, but don't have the budget to pay for it, or don't want to sacrifice enough to pay for it?
Absolutely.
And how do you handle that?
This is a good question. Just really try. Go ahead. You do more finances.
I would say a lot of it's got to be the value, you know, and really, if somebody's, for us anyway, if somebody has a hardship or something like that, and they bring it up to us, and they're up front and let us know, hey, I had this hardship going on. I mean, we have them fill out forms as far as give me your budget. Let me know exactly where you're spending your money before I say, yeah, I will give you a discount or something to that extent. Because if they truly do have a hardship, they will fill that paperwork out and they will come back in and talk to you about it. If there's truly a hardship. But if it's an issue of them not wanting to spend the money or not thinking the value's there, they're not going to fill out the paperwork. So right there, you have your job. You know, it's pretty easy at that point. Did that answer your question? Yeah.
But like anything, like Kyle said, regardless of how, and this is to all the new doctors, when we do wellness plans, there's obviously multiple visit plans, but you have to value what you do and your adjustment, because once you learn how to value what you're doing, you'll realize that even though you might charge somebody that's so much for an adjustment or per adjustment, to you it's worth that much more. Or to me now, an adjustment, like even though you might charge like let's say $35, to me that adjustment is worth way more than that. And if you actually know the product and the service that you have, you don't have a hard time telling people that, you know, this is how many visits it's going to take to get you well, and this is how much it is. Don't be afraid of that.
I mean, ask yourself, would you pay for it? Because if you won't pay for it, how do you expect them to? So that just is a self-check for you. And I'm not pointing fingers at you because we're not on practice. But you know, you can't expect somebody else to pay that value of the care if you yourself don't think it's worth that, or you wouldn't be willing to do it for your family. So.
Good question.
Any other questions?
Can I ask a general question for all the chiropractors in the room?
Absolutely.
What did everybody major in for their undergrad?
Kinesiology and exercise physiology.
University studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biology.
Kinesiology. If I could make one suggestion to that, because you don't have to have strict biology anymore to get in chiropractic schools, you can be more diverse now. I would suggest something business oriented. The only reason I say that is because they don't teach you that in school, and that's valuable information that if you don't learn it from somebody when you get out, you're going to fail. So, and I didn't take any business classes, so thank goodness I had what I had once I got out. But, you know, and that's nice, because when I went through, we had to have X amount of biology, X amount of chemistry, X, you know, it was drawn out, but they're letting, you know, more of a diverse crowd through, you know, music majors and, you know, different things like that. So I would suggest business.
University studies.
Oh, yes.
What does that mean?
It means it's a pick your own major.
And the cool thing is since you guys are here already, you're already jump starting that bandwagon, because like you said, in school, I mean, they teach you a lot about how to treat the patient, and you know, every school does a good job of doing that. So I definitely think that you guys are ahead of the game by being here, because that's one thing that I really wish that I would have done, is I really wish that I would have went to more seminars. I really wish that I would have gotten involved with the clinic a lot sooner, because the type of stuff that you learn in this atmosphere is irreplaceable. You can't learn it anywhere else. Running a business does not come naturally to everybody. A lot of people think, hey, I'm just gonna, and you'll hear this analogy a lot. A lot of people think they're just going to walk out of school, put up a sign, and people are going to walk in the door, and that doesn't happen.
I was going to say too, chiropractors are kind of awesome in one aspect that if you're an intern or if you're a student and you're serious about going into a chiropractor's office and saying, can I just be a fly on the wall in here just for a little while? If you do that at our clinic, we'd probably say, sure. And then we'll pay you to go do like spinal screenings and stuff like that. That is like unbelievable. What business can you go into Wells Fargo and go, hey, can I hang out behind the teller and just kind of see what banking is all about? They go, And so, I mean, that's kind of cool, and you get to learn business, billing, I mean, all that stuff. No matter what, as an intern, you get to learn that, but when I was an intern in T7, you only get 6 hours or whatever. I was there for like 12, 15, 20 hours if I could be there. If I could clean a deck full of poop from birds, I would do it, because I'm like, you know what? Like, this place is cool, and I want to be a part of this place. So you rub off on other people and stuff like that.
That's a true story, too.
True story.
True story.
I think they all do that.
It's not just you. I mean, you had to do it for 2 trimesters, but
yeah. I was there.
Just one.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Ready? Finish strong. We're gonna finish strong. We're gonna take, and I'm serious, no more than 5 minutes potty break, right? Okay, 5 minutes. Here's what we have left. We have a half an hour session with myself and Dr. Justin. Up here, we're gonna be going over